during the week on narrative and aesthetic language. And here's the mind map. So the mind map again reminds us of the features of each of the genres. So over the coming weeks, we look at all of the genres: persuasion, argument. Well, we're doing narrative and aesthetic now, and the other one is information. And we'll also look at personal writing and how to write a speech. And the idea is that we will just learn 5 or 6 features of each style of writing, so that when we go into the exam, that tricky style question that so many people struggle with, that it's not going to be hard for us to find examples of the style in the passage. That's the easy part of the question. So really quickly in class this week, we looked at the idea of believable characters, make a story engaging. Those characters can be more believable, more realistic, more authentic if dialogue is used. A plot, particularly engaging opening, you might see in a passage on a reading comprehension section, draws the reader in, makes the experience immersive, and so on. We discussed this already. Setting, the world in which the story unfolds has to be with some degree of authenticity portrayed. Sense of atmosphere or tension is often essential to a really good story. And of course, whether or not the story addresses universal themes is a key element. The other thing we looked at during the week was aesthetic language, and we talked about how aesthetic language means description, and how description often simply means appealing to the senses, provoking, imagery, and the multiple different senses there: visual, olfactory, gustatory, oral, and tactile. And we talked about there are certain techniques you can look out for in a passage, like metaphor, simile, personification, onomatopoeia, and so on, allusions, and particularly then the attention to detail, sometimes just the writer's attention to incidental, apparently unimportant details. It can be a list of things that, like the brush strokes from a painter on a canvas, fill out the image or make it more vivid or powerful or cinematic or photographic or whatever adjective you want to use. But it can also be just the precision of the verb selection or the accuracy of the noun-adjective combinations, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that we did in class. And then we looked at, I'm going to close that now, and hopefully the screen doesn't go funny. And then this is the passage from, should be back here now, just give me a second, window. Yeah, there we go. Apologies about that. This is the, I'll remember how to do it quicker next time. This is the passage that we were looking at. It's from the 2023 exam. And you'll remember that we looked at this opening section in which Salim, the speaker, described his uncle Amir and him telling them that money was really important. And we had looked at the question, and the question asked about how features of both narrative and descriptive writing are used effectively by Abdul Razak Gurna to capture the world Salim encounters in the passage. Okay, so we know that is a likely question to come up in our exam, not narrative and descriptive, although it has a very good chance. There's only 5 or 6 language genres to choose from, and there's 3 passages every year, so it's very likely you're going to be asked on to look for elements of that kind of writing. And you're looking for a 20-mark question, looking for 4 distinct points, because that's to be 4 distinct paragraphs. And we looked at the passage last week, and we saw how there was a piece of dialogue at the start. Uncle Amir says, "In your circumstances, it is the perfect option and will allow you to work anywhere in the world, make money, think of the outcomes, accountancy, management, consultancy, at the end of it, all plenty of money in the bank." And we said, okay, what do we learn about the world Salim inhabits there? And we realized it's a world where, material things are important, or, there's a lot of pressure on him, and he's expected to obey his family, so duty is important. So there's quite a lot you could say there about the world he inhabits through the character of Uncle Amir and the dialogue. So what did we do? Sorry, now I'm going to be jumping back and forward from text to text. We looked at this paragraph here, and I wrote this paragraph in class, and we could see the quality, the three elements of really good paragraphing. There's a clearly relevant topic sentence. Salim lives in a highly pressurized environment. That clearly relevant topic sentence is then followed by evidence of learning from the student and also evidence from the passage in support of the point. This is evident from the first paragraph. The author introduces the character of Salim's uncle and uses dialogue in order to help the reader understand the reality of Salim's existence. There you were, going to the question, but not parroting and just repeating the words of the question. So remember, the words of the question were the world Salim encounters, and we're saying pressurized environment, that's the world he encounters. Reality of his existence, that's the world he encounters. And here is the quote. His uncle tells him he must study because he has to make money, and emphasizes that for Salim, all that matters is plenty of money in the bank. And then you have the most important ingredient that the vast majority of students don't put into their paragraphs, which means that their paragraphs fall flat. You have the attempted explanation. Remember, it's called contextualization. The attempted explanation of why the point and the evidence provided is relevant to the question. Don't presume that the examiner will understand why. Remember, the examiner is looking for you to go to that extra level of explanation. It doesn't have to be in great depth, but it has to be there to score well in Leaving Certificate Higher Level English, which is a critical thinking exam. Gurna's skill as a narrative writer is clearly apparent here. He employs dialogue effectively in order to convey the very intense reality of Salim's existence. The precise choice of the exclamation mark and the repetition of the word money leaves the reader in no doubt that Salim is a young man who lives in a world of pressure and expectancy. Now you can see that that is a clear, focused, organised paragraph where the student is writing with some level of authority in terms of they know what they want to say and they know how they want to say it. There's a structure to the paragraph. There are no basic errors. There's a confidence because the student has learned those elements of narrative writing and understands how to explain the impact of those elements. And that's a skill that most students don't have. And it's a skill that I would love you to have when you go into the exam because it will give you an advantage. Okay? So let's go back to the passage now for a second. And I want to show you a couple of examples that we mentioned in class the other day. Okay, so here we have him talking about how when he arrived at his aunt and uncle's house, they were very welcoming, and his aunt looked upon him like immediately with kindness. And it says, they both beamed smiles at me, and Auntie Asha spoke to me as if I was a diffident younger brother who needed to be brought out of himself. Later on, when he's describing in the letter to his mother his experience of London, he says, when a double-decker bus goes by and you see the faces through the window, it is like a glimpse of a page in an illustrated children's encyclopedia under the title People of the World. Now, there are other examples of this technique in the passage, but both of those are similes. She spoke to me as if I was her brother. The bus window is like a glimpse of a page in the encyclopedia. So that's a feature of descriptive writing which helps us understand the world that Salim inhabits. And what I've done here is I've written, sorry, that's the wrong one. What I've done here is I've written a short paragraph in which I use that point about simile in order to make the point effectively. And let's have a look at the sample paragraph here, and then we'll do one live one, and hopefully you'll find that in some way useful. Don't forget, if you're in my full-time class, you're going to have to come in and do 2 paragraphs in response to this question in the middle hour next Wednesday. Gurna makes effective use of simile in order to convey an accurate picture of the reality of London life for Salim. So there, great topic sentence. What have you got? You've got the focus on, you've got the focus on the question, accurate picture of the reality of London life. That's the world he inhabits, the world he encounters. And you've got the technique, simile. That's the descriptive element. So remember, the 2 parts to the question. Do you show that you know elements of narrative or descriptive writing? And tie that to how the writer brings the world encountered by the character to life. That's the technique. And in the topic sentence, you lay that out for the examiner, and the examiner's delighted to see that because it's clear and easy to read. It makes their life, it makes their life easy. They can reward this. So you've made your point. Now, give the evidence. The passage is filled with interesting creative similes. One of the best occurs in the second paragraph when Salim comments that his aunt spoke to me as if I was a diffident, which means shy, younger brother who needed to be brought out of himself. So there you've integrated the quote into your sentence. That's a skill. Again, it's a skill. That's a marker of one of the better students. This simile communicates the fact that while Salim may be under pressure from his family, he is also offered love, patience, and understanding. So there, on its own, that could be a paragraph. But it's a little short. It's a good simile. It's a good paragraph. It does illustrate something about his world that he inhabits. It is a world where love, patience, and understanding are offered. Simile is a technique, but to me, if I was marking that, I go, oh, give me a little bit more. Show me a little bit more depth if you want me to reward you. So I used another simile. Another powerful simile is used to similar effect to convey the multi-ethnic, multicultural reality of London. Gurner writes, when a double-decker bus goes by and you see the faces through the window, it is like a glimpse of a page of an illustrated children's encyclopedia under the title People of the World. Here again, the author's skillful use of simile creates vivid description, which effectively describes the world inhabited by Salim. Now that, guys, is top quality response. It's the paragraph itself is 130 maybe, 158 words long. Nice paragraph. So that's going to take, for most of you, around 20 lines of the answer booklet. Good, meaty, substantial paragraph, but it's not waffly. It's got a very clear identity. It's about simile, and it's about how simile helps the writer convey the reality of the world. That's what the question was asking. It's evidence-based. It's got quotation in it, and it contextualizes. It doesn't just say that this simile helps us understand the world. It explains what aspect of the world it helps us understand. First simile, that he encounters love, patience, and understanding. Second simile, that it's a multi-ethnic, multicultural world that he encounters. So that's how you write your paragraphs. You learn your features of genre. You identify examples in the text. You use the RIC rules. If you don't know what they are, remember I told you there's another video on this channel that explains what they are to write your paragraph. You start off with a relevant topic sentence. You provide information in support of your point or I. You write as clearly as you can, see, and you remember to contextualize or explain the point and the information in the light of the question. At the end of your paragraph, you link back to the opening point or link back to the question. It's essentially the same thing, and you've got a good paragraph. So when you come into me next Wednesday, those of you, I know there's loads of you watching this now who aren't in my class, so hopefully for you people this is useful. And you can email me, by the way, on I can't remember the email address now, it'll come to me in a second. But if you have any questions about things that I do and you're not in my class, you can email me and let me know. Or actually, you can just drop a note in the chat here, probably be the easiest thing to do on the video. And if you are in my class next Wednesday, you have to do you can't do those two. You can do simile if you want, no bother. And you can do characterization if you want to, but not those examples. But I want 2 paragraphs in which you take 2 other elements of the writer's style and how he uses narrative and or descriptive language to bring the world Salim encounters to life. Hope you found that useful. I'm going to do a little video now on Hamlet.